Okay, we're finally at our last step here. Woo. We're finally at step 7 of updating our app module configs to connect the routes. Almost there. We're almost there. So let's go ahead and move over to our appmodule.ts file. And this is kind of like our main configuration for setting up routes and so forth. So we'll add some updates here for the Okta login configuration. So I'll make some Okta imports here from the Okta Angular SDK. So we have this Okta config, auth module, and callback component. And we'll use these in some of the upcoming coding. We also need to do an import here on this myappconfig. That's that same file that we created earlier. Basically holding the properties here, the configs for our client application. And we'll create this new Okta config here. I'll go ahead and write the code first. Then once I have the code written, then I'll come back and talk about it. So we're basically saying, hey, let's create this new object, onAuth required. So when they try and log into our application and they haven't been authenticated, then we'll actually route them to the login page. And so in a second here, we'll connect the routes for /login and also connect the routes for the callback. And also with this Okta config that we're setting up, we also want to pass in our OpenID Connect JSON configs that we created a little bit earlier. All right, so let's go ahead and connect the routes. So we had that login /callback. And so we'll have it use this component, Okta callback component. And then for login by itself, then we'll actually have them make a call to the login component that we just created. Okay, so login component is the one that we created in some previous videos. So that's our code. And then there's also this Okta callback component. So this Okta callback component will be executed once the user's been authenticated and they're redirected to our application. Normally, we'd have to write code to parse the response and store the OAuth and OIDC tokens, but the Okta callback component will do all of that work for you. So that's why we're using the Okta callback component in this scenario.